Welcome back to the United Pubcast, back to finally discuss some football. Apologies for having a 1 or 2 day break from the podcast, but just recharging the batteries, and we are back at it now that Manchester United are back and playing football. Now, there will be transfer discussion on this show, no doubt, and when we get into the Hojlund and Amrabat deals, and there's a little bit of news breaking around Scott McTominay as well, so stay tuned for all the transfer talk. But, Larry, not often Manchester United play 2 games in 2 days. Now, if this happened in January or February, we would be complaining and we'll be sort of screaming to the FA, what the hell are they doing to Manchester United, and sort of the fixture congestion and player welfare and everything. But here in pre-season, we absolutely lap it up and say, oh, Manchester United play twice in 2 days, and we absolutely love it. So we'll discuss the Wrexham game. Interesting one. Absolutely nothing to talk about, but also a lot of talking points, in my opinion, in and around Wrexham. And then obviously we'll look ahead to the Real Madrid match, which kicks off in about 12 hours' time, which will be a completely different team, no doubt, and sort of gives us a far more clearer indication of what is going to happen in the upcoming season, which, Larry, it's creeping up. Wolves only, a bit over 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away? A bit over 2 weeks?
Yeah, the proper season's not far away at all, and it's creeping up quickly. We're 2.5 weeks away from the season proper, which is insane to think about. But look, nonetheless, on the Wrexham game, I thought it was really good just to watch the young kids play against adults. But it's a good eye-opener for anyone who watched that game and sits there saying, put kids in the team, put kids in the first team, start this guy, start that guy. As you saw today, men's football is different to dominating at an academic level. And there's a clear difference. And it's kind of like, you know what I would compare it to, Tom? Like, you're a UFC fan. It's like weight classes. It's almost like that in football. If you're versing people, so what they tend to do, so like Mason Greenwood's actually a good example, is one that comes to mind. When Mason was 16, he was playing in the under-18s, and then he progressed to under-23s, and then eventually the first team. And in cases like that, it's because you want the player to play against people who are physically superior, because it's not just a tactical development, it's a physical development too. And obviously that's where, while the Manchester United players may be technically better, the physicality, the player who's willing to put an elbow into you don't experience that when you're growing up in the academy. So it almost comes as a bit of a shock. And that's the thing. I don't think Wrexham beat Manchester United's under-23s and Johnny Evans. I don't think they beat them on ability. They beat them on physicality.
Yeah, no, look, I completely agree. And it sort of ties into my next point before we discuss potentially 1 or 2 talking points and obviously the players who did potentially stand out. But just in regards to this Wrexham game, and this is not me being negative towards it, I have no issue with this, the under-23s or under-21s, whatever you want to call them, playing senior football, coming on tour, being part of this sort of Wrexham documentary or whatever. I have no issue. No skin off my teeth. It's, I think, as I said, a good opportunity for the players to learn something. I think you learn nothing more than when you go 2-0 down to adults as well, and then you have 10 men as well. So I think it's a very good shout. I just saw 1 or 2 articles and 1 or 2 questions raised in and around sort of throwing the kids to the wolves a little bit in regards to, if this was any other team, if this was Brighton or West Ham or Fiorentina or a club like that, would we go and send our under-21s to play a team like that? Maybe even a lesser club. But we're sort of caving to sort of Wrexham's, I don't want to say popularity contest, but we're sort of giving them what they want in regards to, should Manchester United be caving to Wrexham's demands and sort of giving them a win against Manchester United? Or could we be sort of treating our young player? I think we have treated them with respect by sending them into this game and giving that exposure. But there is also, we could have gone into a better game and a better football environment.
Look, I'm actually really happy United did this, and I'd actually would like to see United expand on this. I want to see us look to put, there was a few years ago, there was talk about Manchester United putting in a request to the FA at the time. And it was actually for Manchester United to be able to participate. I'm going to butcher the name of this. Was it the John Paint Trophy?
Well, there's a revamp of the EFL Trophy now, which Manchester United will be playing. I think the teams this year in our group are Salford, Bolton, and potentially Sunderland. I'm not sure. I don't think Sunderland will be in it.
John Paint Trophy. Nonetheless, the principle's the same. But United are clearly identifying that their academy players are not getting the opportunity. There is a better opportunity to support their development, because what's happening at the moment is, and I think you're seeing it, the players who aren't making it into the first team or aren't securing loans, they're tending to drop off. A good example actually is Hojlund. Hojlund at the back end of last season, didn't he go on loan to a non-league team? I mean, that tells you that Manchester United still see the value in a kid playing against men, not necessarily, even if it's not the Premier League or the Championship or whatever. So I think, it tells you a few things. The first thing is the under-23s isn't the caliber that we think it is, and that's why the jump to the first team is ginormous. Because, look, you just saw the kids can't beat Wrexham, so how are they going to beat Chelsea and Crystal Palace and Wolves? And number two is these players need to be versing men more often. So I think if United can explore opportunities to do these sorts of things, it's actually a revenue raiser. If United sent their kids out to verse Sydney FC in Australia, wouldn't you go watch it? You'd go watch it.
No, look, the actual football side of things, I completely agree. It's just me, and again, this is not me hating on it. I do see the positives in it. Of course, I saw arguments today on the other side of the fence in terms of sort of caving to Wrexham and sort of giving Wrexham a free 3 points for their upcoming documentary sort of thing. I think should we sort of be subject, and it's nothing, but just it was an interesting argument. I did think, but Al saying is like Sachin Tendulkar playing Test cricket at 16. And Tom, good to see you, mate. This is a good opportunity for the youngsters to be exposed to real rough guts of lower league teams. Results don't matter at all. I only wish we could do this more often. Do agree with you there, Tom. Now, we'll touch on transfers and Real Madrid, but just the last bit on the match, Larry, in regards to the Dan Goal red card is what it is. The goals for Wrexham were sort of your standard goals. I could be a little bit choppy. Hopefully my internet comes back soon, but fingers crossed it does. If not, Larry, continue on. But if you're still with us, there was the Wrexham goals. I don't read anything into it. Men sort of winning headers at the back post against kids. That's going to happen. Marco with a really good goal. A nice finish for him. Obviously, I thought he actually played quite well at right back, or one of the standouts in the first half. But the standout for me in the first half, we'll get into Hannibal in regards to maybe man of the match, but the standout for me, especially when there was 11 v 11, Alvaro Fernandez, which we've obviously spoke highly of in the past couple of weeks in regards to potentially seeing a future for him this season at Old Trafford. I thought he was our best player in that first half, and look, a great finish by Gerardo, but an equally better ball by Alvaro Fernandez from the left.
Yeah, it was a great ball by Alvaro Fernandez from the left. Tom, in your mind, has Alvaro Fernandez almost leapfrogged Malacia? Because to me, already on what I've seen, and it shouldn't be far-fetched to me, I want to see him get an opportunity with the first team, because I think I've said it all along, and I'm going to sound like a broken record at some point, but he's far better. There's nothing that Malacia offers that Alvaro Fernandez doesn't have, other than an opportunity to prove himself.
Look, I've been agreeing. I've been saying that for a while as well, and that's not to really sort of downplay Malacia. I just think, with the opportunity Fernandez could be given, I do see it. And look, I think it's much of a muchness, and a lot might come down to Erik ten Hag's decision in terms of, Malacia was a signing. Now, he wasn't a £60 million signing, but he's still his signing. So do you think that will potentially have an impact on Erik ten Hag's decision?
Look, I wouldn't think so, just because he's not what you'd call a high-profile signing. I think Anthony is being given a lot of patience because of the price tag. But with Malacia, I mean, it's a £12 million signing. I dare say if United sold Malacia now, he goes for more. So, I mean, United have won out regardless with Malacia. I think with Alvaro Fernandez, I look at his ability and I actually think he could replace Luke Shaw if Shaw dropped off, or if Shaw has a loss in form or an injury. You don't see a drop-off in quality. When Malacia is there is a drop-off in quality. And again, that's not a knock. I actually think Malacia is your more natural squad player. I think Alvaro Fernandez long-term is actually someone who could be pushing to start week in, week out.
Yeah, no, look, I completely agree. It's hard with Luke Shaw in terms of Alvaro Fernandez development. Is he going to get that development playing 15, 20 games, or is he going to be better off on loan? But that's a debate for another day. But Tom here, Alvaro Fernandez and Hannibal look good. We'll touch on Hannibal. Adam here can't see him playing over Malacia. I think he'll get another loan. Look, money would suggest potentially he'll go out on loan again. No doubt about that. And Tom here saying far too soon to say Fernandez over Malacia. This sounds to me like a harsh judgment on Malacia just because he wasn't flashy like Shaw. To be honest, Malacia is 10 times flashier than Shaw. He's a far more flashier player than Luke Shaw, but I think they're quite even at the moment. Now, Malacia is obviously ahead because he has experience at the highest level. Fernandez has a year of senior football, which I think can't go unnoticed. He's not just a youth player. He's a youth player coming through, but he's a little bit more than a youth player coming through just because we didn't see him last year. He was playing senior football, so he's probably a little bit ahead of... I think Fernandez is probably ahead of where a lot of people probably just sort of visualise where he is. He has had that years, but again, look, I wouldn't lose any sleep if he goes on loan and Trom Lassie stays at left back for the backup. But I do see a bright future for him, no doubt about that. But Al talking about, he came from Real Madrid as well, didn't he? The Real Madrid youth system as well. But Hannibal, I thought Fernandez was probably the standout, and Hannibal really took control of the game when we went down to 10 men. And now, what was he going to do when from midfield when we're down to 10 men? He wasn't going to go win us the game, especially with the tools around him in regards to a young team against adults. But for the game that was in front of him, Hannibal, look, did he do enough to displace Mason and Bruno? No, that performance wasn't one of those performances. But he led the team for me.
Yeah, it was a mature performance from Hannibal. And he kind of identified United. Once you go down to 10, whatever level of the game it is, it's very hard. Look, Wrexham, they're a League Two team. They're not, they're not a Sunday football team. When you're down to 10, it's very difficult. So I thought he played a mature game. He played a game where it was almost like, how do I make sure United keep control so we don't concede more? And United looked good for that. So, yeah, I'd like to see Hannibal, another one who gets hopefully more of an opportunity. I still think he's more likely to go on loan. He maybe hasn't. It's too early to tell in the tour. I think by the end of the tour we get a better idea. But has he done enough as yet to say you keep him around? Maybe not. I think he's close, but I think he's got to show a little bit more over the next few games.
Do you think? I thought one of the look, and I agree. I thought I would like to see Hannibal part of the squad, but he's in such a tricky spot, especially with his age and his situation, having senior football as well.
Yeah,
they're the two players who I thought stood out. The main positive for me, and again, I don't know if I call this the main positive, but as I said, this is in San Diego. I'm not sure where United are playing Real Madrid. I think it's in Houston. So two different states, and Eric Ten Hag was there. Now, he could have easily let the reserve team coach take that, or the academy people stay in charge of this match. For Eric Ten Hag to go there. Now, look, I'm sure it's a free flight. I'm sure it was first class. I'm sure he's stayed in a nice hotel room. So it mustn't have been too tough for him. But I thought that was good to see. Like I've seen, and this is further seen from criticising Sir Alex, I think Sir Alex Ferguson would very likely have stayed with the first team and let the youth team boss sort of have that moments. But Eric Ten Hag to come and watch the young players, I thought that was really positive to see. He could have easily not done.
All right. Well, firstly, you're starting to sound like ChatGPT, so hopefully your internet kicks back in, mate. But yeah, I agree with you. I think with Sir Alex Ferguson, and I get that. I know you're not trying to say this in a critical way. I think Sir Alex earns the right to do things like that. I think with Ten Hag, because he's so early into his tenure and still hasn't got the wins on the board really. To show these kids that it is a legitimate trial, to say, do you want to be part of the first team for the rest of this tour, or do you want to make an impression to be a part of the first team squad setup this season? He had to be there, because if he's not there, what message does that send to the players to be motivated, to push to be part of the first team? So I think it's the right move by Ten Hag. It sends the right message to the players. And look, I think what we'll be telling is we've mentioned two names that were obvious in terms of standouts. Let's see. Do they then get an opportunity now to play again? I think against Madrid will be too soon to ask, but maybe against Dortmund, I think we'll get a good idea. Because I would be disappointed if we don't see Hannibal and Alvaro Fernandez now, because if they've impressed, which we all think they have, then hopefully the manager rewards that.
Yeah, definitely. Look, if my internet is no good, kick me out and carry on with the show. I'm not sure why it is unstable. Hopefully you hear me. But just in regards to the Real Madrid preview, this is a test. Okay, I went into that Arsenal match quietly confident we're going to sort of perform well and win. That happened. Now, that doesn't mean anything, but I always sort of go in all match against Arsenal, regardless of our situation, quite confident. Going in against Real Madrid, and the quality they do possess. Now, they're probably not the team they were 3 or 4 seasons ago. But what are you looking for in regards to this Real Madrid match? Is it simply, okay, let's see what Onana does? Because I'm sure Onana is going to play, and I'm sure he's going to play a full game. Are you most looking forward to how we play there? Or are you looking to continue sort of the confidence of winning and sort of that momentum going into the season? Is it who plays in the number 9 role in regards to Jadon Sancho as a false 9? Has Rashford got to play through the middle with someone on the left? Just your 1 or 2 sort of things you're looking forward to for this match.
I think the fact that Sancho's played centrally pretty much every game is quite telling. And I think that actually suggests that Ten Hag is almost following along the same thought that we are, that Rashford's best football comes off the left. And I think for Rashford, that's really important. United need to keep that dynamic threat in that wide position, because I think that's where Rashford plays his best football first and foremost. But actually, I think Sancho's best football probably does come centrally. You and I have had this constant back and forth over the last 2 years to say, well, actually, is he probably a more advanced midfielder? Is he a central player? And you can see why his qualities probably suit being in the middle of the park. So if Ten Hag's looking to play him as a false 9, which I got to say, over the games, I think he's gradually looked better and better. And against Arsenal, he played quite well. So let's wait and see. But I actually imagine if Martial's not fit, I could see Sancho starting the season as a false 9 or in that number 9 area. He won't play the traditional back to goal. But I could definitely see it. And I think as a result, Bruno Fernandes will almost be like a 2-striker system. But I am going to say this with a sense of optimism. Martial's in training. I think Martial will play, if not against Madrid, then against Dortmund. But yeah, sorry, to answer your question before I go off on a tangent too far, I think it'll be Sancho and or Martial through the middle. I don't think Rashford will play striker. I think he'll stay on the left.
Let's say, look, I don't want to be negative. Anthony Martial's not fit for the Wolves match. So let's just put 2 and 2 together. That's unfortunately a very likely.
He will be. I mean, the fact he's in full training. I mean, he's fit.
Yeah, but he hasn't had minutes in pre-season. I don't think he'll be available for Wolves. So I think he won't get the minutes. We've seen with Eric Ten Hag in regards to building up a player's fitness, and especially taking his time last season with Anthony Martial in terms of taking his time coming back from injury. I don't expect Martial to be fit for the Wolves match. Now, let's say Rasmus Hojlund, which we'll discuss the Hojlund and Amrabat deals in a sec. Let's say Hojlund comes in. Hojlund hasn't had any preseason games, or maybe had the last preseason game. I think we play as at Athletic Bilbao. I think we might play in Dublin. Maybe let's say Rasmus Hojlund has one preseason game for Manchester United, and Jadon Sancho is plodding along in the false 9 role. Just sort of okay. Just a goal against Arsenal. Not great performances, maybe looking a little bit sharper, but obviously playing out of position. So he's not sort of filling you with complete confidence through that number 9 role. Who plays up front against Wolves? Unfortunately, let's throw Anthony Martial out of the discussion. I'm with you. If he was fit, I'd play him. But let's have to calculate a guess that he won't be available. Hojlund or Sancho?
I think he'll be fit.
How long have we had that discussion?
I know. It's lazy. I mean, it was the end of last season. He'll be fit to start the season. I think he'll play. He's in full training, mate. Like, let's wait and see. At the very least, he'll be on the bench, pending, God forbid, he has another injury between now and the start of the season. But all things considered, he'll be part of the squad at the very least. Of course he'll be.
Oh, no, look, I hope so. I'm just drawing the hypothetical that he's not available. I'm saying off the back of this pre-season, Jadon Sancho or Rasmus Hojlund comes in for £60 million. Who's playing up front against Wolves?
I'm starting to think Hojlund might not happen.
I'm starting to think it's nailed on.
Well, the United have agreed personal terms, but we always see United agree personal terms first. I actually think what will happen is that they'll actually, if Atalanta are adamant that they want £85 million, it'd be insane for Manchester United to pay that. I would be frustrated at the club for paying that. Because
I think it looks like the reliable outlets look like it's down around 45-50 million now in regards to a close fee.
I think Laurie Whitwell put out yesterday on The Athletic that they're still holding out for about £85 million. United are bidding for around 60, but they're holding out for about 80 to 85.
No, we're reading different accounts. And I'm not saying I'm reading the right accounts. It's just maybe I'm not following this as close as I potentially should. Maybe I'm thinking potentially the Amrabat deal. But look, Manchester United definitely won't touch him for that price tag. I remember Chelsea that they threw 80 million out for Mason Mount. Now, Manchester United were never going to do that for Mason Mount. They eventually got that down to a somewhat respectable fee. I think that'll be the same with Hojlund. But just your latest feelings on Hojlund, and throw Amrabat in there as well. Amrabat. Now, actually, we'll start on Amrabat because I think everyone remembers him from the World Cup. I really liked him at the World Cup. He's a standout player for Morocco. I think everyone fell in love with Morocco at the World Cup in regards to sort of the story around them. I think he's a good player. I would welcome at Manchester United. I'm just hesitant in regards to I haven't seen him play throughout a season. I've seen 4 or 5 good games at a World Cup, and all the YouTube compilations obviously highlights. Now, there is a player there, but I just think we've signed this player so many times before in regards to coming in. Is he going to play over Casemiro? No. Is he going to play over Mount? No. Is he going to play over Bruno Fernandes? Now, through injury or form or something he might find himself in and contribute really well. I'm just quite hesitant in regards to, I've seen this deal so many times, and even when I watch his, and again, I'm not an expert on him, just going by sort of the Morocco performances of the World Cup and my YouTube scouting of him. Even when he plays like a 10-yard pass on his highlights, a 10-yard pass to the player next to him, it's 100 mile an hour. It's all frantic and frenetic. It's like watching Fred on ice sort of thing. It works, but it just looks unstable. And I just think, well, there are his highlights. Show the misplaces pass. The passes that he misplaces when he acts like that. And I just think that looks like a bit of a disaster waiting to happen in our midfield. Not saying that's going to be the case. I'm just not sold on Amrabat. A lot of people just, I think in this one, just want a bit of a shiny new toy. Now, the way his highlights, he does look brilliant. I just haven't seen the lowlights yet, which obviously comes with every player. So, Amrabat, I just think for the money spent, I would rather, say 40 million, throw an extra 40 million on the Harry Kane deal and get that sorted over another midfielder who can come in and be good.
I think it depends what you expect, right? So if you're looking at Amrabat to walk into the starting 11, he's not that player. And he shouldn't be expected to be that player. He is a squad player. Now, as a squad player, is he an upgrade on Fred? Yes. Is he an upgrade on McTominay? Yes. Is he an upgrade on Casemiro, Bruno, Mount? No. But does he fulfill a job, or can he give any of those players a rest without dropping the quality too far? Yeah, absolutely he can. So I think that's the attractive bit of him. He's better on the ball than, say, a Fred is. Yeah, he's got his moments on the ball. He's got his moments defensively. But all in all, I think that's a good player. And Italy is not an easy league. It's a very physical league that people get ripped in. So, I'm not... Again, you need to know what you're buying. If as a squad player, I think he's completely fine. I think he lifts the level.
Is there a risk as a squad player? Because that's the feeling I have. He comes in as a squad player. We're always in this debate. Should we buy in squad players or should we buy in first 11 and our first 11 become squad players? And I'm just thinking a bit of my concern. Now, I'm not saying Scott McTominay or Fred is better than Amrabat, but let's say I was drawing an argument that they were, or said maybe on par. There does come a time where I was discussing this in the podcast in regards to I don't want the baggage of a £300 million Mbappe. Yes, he's a good player, but there's something about watching someone who loves Manchester United play. There is a balance. Let's say it's quite even between Fred, McTominay and Amrabat. I'm just thinking, well, we've got one of those players at the moment. Do we need to really go and risk 40 or 50 million on the same thing just to do the same thing? I'm just thinking if we have this in Fred or McTominay who give their all and sort of are a good squad player, do we need to get rid of them to bring in a squad player for £50 million?
Well, I don't think it'd be £50 million. And if he's £50 million, then he shouldn't be the squad player. But I think he lifts the level. I think he's better than both of those players. I really do. And I think on the ball, he's got his moments. Well, I would say to you, Tom, I've seen Casemiro have his moments with the ball last season.
Oh, yeah, not to be just,
you know what I mean? Yeah. But that's the point. But no one's going to sit here and say Casemiro is not world class or Casemiro is not one of the best midfielder, if not the best midfielder in his position in world football. I think he fell off a bit toward the back end of last season, admittedly. But that's the thing. I mean, if Casemiro is capable of the occasional clanger, then why are we holding Amrabat to a different standard? He's a good player. He's a very good player. And I think what Morocco did against elite opposition. And he's well in that. Let's not understate that.
Oh, yes, no, he was brilliant. I fell in love with him at the World Cup, and I would welcome him to Manchester United.
And Fred or McTominay have that level of impact for their country. The answer is no. There's something there.
To be honest, Scott McTominay's leader in the Euro. He's qualifying Scotland for the Euros. He can't stop scoring goals. But I do take your point. But just in regards to that balance, my priority still leans on a striker. And I just think this money, let's say 30 to 50 million, could that not be then a squad player in midfield, in my opinion?
I'm quite frustrated that this report coming out of Tottenham is Daniel Levy's been told by the owner that Harry Kane should get sold if he doesn't want to sign a new deal. Why United are not front of that queue is infuriating.
That's where I'm still holding out hope. I think we actually might be. Now, we might not be, but I'm holding out hope that we might be.
Well, we better be. Like, there's no explanation for it. And no disrespect to Hojlund. It's not a comparison here. You go get Harry Kane.
Yeah.
He's the closest thing to a guaranteed success that you're going to get. You go and get that deal done.
Yeah, no, look, I completely agree. There's no doubt about that. There is an argument. Adam saying I think we'll go Kane late in the window. I do agree. That's not ideal.
United are playing a masterclass here. Now, if United are in Harry Kane's team's ear and they know, here we go. Tottenham have said they want to sell you. Let's wait till the end of the window and really apply the pressure because then we'll get a discount for you. If that's
you could imagine it. You could imagine the marketing, the commercial side of things in regards to a late transfer deal for Harry Kane on deadline day for Manchester United would be absolutely brilliant. Now, the argument in regards to Harry Kane and Hojlund, now I side on the fence. If to choose one for me, it's Harry Kane. I'll break the bank for him. So I fall on that side of the argument. But let's say you go on, it's unfortunate, but let's say 120 million for Harry Kane in terms of securing the deal between Premier League rivals. 120 million for Harry Kane, and he gives you 2 top seasons, maybe 3 top seasons, maybe a Premier League title in there. Or Hojlund for 50 million, and he might not give you the guaranteed success over the next maybe 2 or 3 years, but will be a superstar and will be a sort of a great Manchester United player in the future. What's the better business?
It's Harry Kane. I think Hojlund isn't... If Hojlund was putting up the level that Haaland was at the same age, that's a different story. And that's not a knock because Haaland's unbelievable. But Hojlund isn't... There's potential there. Absolutely, there's potential there. But he won't realize that potential for 4 or 5 years. And that's if he fulfills that potential too. So you're signing a player who might score 10 goals, which you'd call a success if he does, to be honest.
Versus in talking about his goals in Serie A, and look, I don't watch Serie A. Haven't watched any of Atalanta this season or last season. We've been not critical, but we've just highlighted, okay, he's only scored 8 or 9 goals in Serie A, and we're right to do so. I did read 1 or 2 tweets suggesting that there might be absolute lies and fabrication, but the tweets were suggesting a lot of his appearances were off the bench. So he's actually sort of goals to game ratio was actually, the 8 or 9 goals is actually extremely good. And I'm just thinking, yeah.
But he's a 20-year-old kid coming into the hardest football league in world football.
Yeah.
That needs to be put into perspective. Jadon Sancho tore up Germany in his very early 20s. Comes to the Premier League, he's got 12 goals in 2 years.
Would you doubt Erik ten Hag? I think Harry Kane's Erik ten Hag's first choice. Draw up a hypothetical where he's not interested in Harry Kane. Hojlund is really his man. He really wants Hojlund. He sees something in Hojlund that we don't. Would you question Erik ten Hag in regards to bringing in someone like Hojlund to lead the line for men? Well, I don't think we would question Erik ten Hag, not in a bad way, but I think you would have to kind of question his decision-making if that was his first choice.
But it's not his first choice. Yeah, Harry Kane's his first choice. But if United are pulling the purse strings tight and they're saying, look, we can't get Kane, but we can get you Hojlund, well, he's going to take something over nothing. But Harry Kane's his first choice. Every single journalist has said Harry Kane's his first choice. So Ten Hag knows which one of the two is the better player. But if United are telling him they can't get the deal done, well, then he can only get what he can get, right?
Look, everything you've said there is right in terms of a prediction, though. What happens with Harry Kane in regards to, it did look like maybe a week ago, it looked like pretty confident he's actually potentially going to leave for Bayern Munich. That's quieted down in the last couple of days. I'm just thinking, what do you think? Obviously, we want to see him at Red. We want to see him in Red at Old Trafford, of course. What do you think actually happens, especially with the news coming that the owners have put a little bit of pressure on Levy to sell? Does you think, because he is on pre-season with Tottenham, he's playing games for Tottenham, so I'm just thinking your latest feeling around the situation.
I don't think Harry Kane knows. I really don't. I really don't.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. Yeah.
I think he's probably still deciding. I think the idea of Munich's appealing because he can challenge in Europe. He can go be their main man. So that might be appealing to him a country that's a little bit warmer.
Are we lazy with the goals record? Because that makes no sense, because we all say he wants a Premier League goal record now. Has he ever done an interview saying, I want the Premier League gold record?
I think there's a desire there to win trophies. And I think there's a realization that, look at who holds the record for goals at the moment. Shearer. No one talks about Shearer's career. All anyone talks about is his goal record. And mind you, he won the Premier League with Blackburn, but that's the point. He won nothing at Newcastle, so no one cares. When people look back in the history books and they talk about the Premier League's greatest strikers, do you notice that no one mentions Alan Shearer? And he's got the most goals.
I take your point. I know what you mean in regards to maybe if you sort of sit down for 5 minutes, he'll come up in the discussion. But yes, in terms of the first names off the rank. Yeah.
Everyone's saying Terry Henry. They're saying Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
You get my point.
No, I take your point there. And I think you come back to, you say Harry Kane probably unfortunately doesn't know his decision. I think that's potentially the sticking point. Maybe what we're blaming Daniel Levy, we're blaming Tottenham, we're blaming Man United. Maybe it's Harry Kane potentially holding all this up.
Interestingly said that Harry Kane wants £600,000 per week. If that's the case,
we have seen what Saudi Arabia are doing, and that's the players going from Europe to Saudi Arabia, and that is what it is. That's a discussion for itself. Is that going to sort of influence deals like in England in regards to nothing to do with Saudi Arabia, between Tottenham, Manchester United, and an English footballer? He will see someone's wages in Saudi Arabia and say, hang on, this player's getting this much, you're going to give me this much.
Well, let me ask you a question. If in a hypothetical world, you're a Manchester United fan, hey, Tom, you can have 15 million a year to play for Manchester United, or you can have 30 million to play for Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. Where are you going?
Yeah, but talk about if Harry Kane doesn't have that on the table in Saudi Arabia, if he's only talking to Manchester United, could he price himself out of a move to Manchester United because of what his mates are earning in Saudi Arabia?
Well, if that's his mentality, yes. You know what I mean? But if his team, which is his brother, which I find comical to say the least, but nonetheless, it's Harry Kane's decision. If his brother is sitting there advising him that he wants to compare Manchester United's salary to Al Nassr, the reason Saudi Arabia are offering stupid money, Tom, is because no one will go to Saudi Arabia unless they offer stupid money. That's the appeal of Saudi Arabia. There's nothing else there. Whereas in England, you've got competitive football. You still get paid handsomely. You get to build your football legacy. You get to build your brand. Every player who's going to Saudi Arabia, that's your brand gone. No one's going to know who Ruben Neves is in 3 years' time. So let's.
Do you think this is
component that's getting lost?
That point you make there in regards to, we look at all the players coming in now. There's been an influx. Everyone's saying, "Oh, I need to be a part of this," and they're all sort of flooding over Saudi Arabia, are bringing everyone in they can. And we're saying, well, with the money they have, they're not going to slow down. They're going to do the same next year. They're going to do the same the year after that. We haven't even talked about Mbappe there, which is a different level of business. But we're talking about this is not going to stop because of the money they have. Do you think it potentially will stop? Not so much on Saudi Arabia's side of things. Now, at the end of the day, money does talk, but more so from the players' point of view. The next players next season, when they have this year in Europe coming up and realise that no one's actually watching the football in Saudi Arabia, do you think that will influence? Now, obviously, money will talk at the end of next season when Saudi Arabia does come in, but they will see that no one's talking about Ronaldo, no one's talking about Benzema, Kante sort of thing, Ruben Neves, and the attention is still on Europe.
You're right, and that's the thing. I think the Saudi bubble will pop sooner than people think. Because they're gambling. Because let's think about it. People spend, even when money seems endless. When you spend records amounts of money, you're looking for a return. There's always an intention behind spending that money, right? Chris makes the good point here. The kitty is 120 billion. Yes, it is 120 billion. But here's the key point. If that doesn't bring eyeballs to the product, if tourism isn't increasing in Saudi Arabia, it's going to fail. It won't work. So they're putting now that they've gone very top heavy on this budget. I bet you at least, I'm not going to say a third of it's been spent. I mean, there's still plenty. I think it's 12 billion. I don't think it's 120 billion. I think it's 12 billion, Chris. Anyway, I could be wrong.
What's the difference? Well, when you're talking that many billions.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, yeah, you're right. But anyway, the point being that with these players, I don't see. Look, I can tell you, I have no greater interest in going to Saudi Arabia with all these players being bought. Do you? But yeah, case in point. So I don't know where they're going to see the return.
My main issue in regards to the eyes, which we're talking about in terms of watching the product and watching the football, Cristiano Ronaldo. Love Cristiano. I still don't. You mentioned earlier, Al Nassr is the club he plays for. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. He's the one player I know which club. Who's Gerrard gone to? He's the manager. Who's Jordan Henderson gone to? Who's Benzema playing for? Who's Mahrez playing for?
The same club as Gerrard, which is
So I live and breathe football. I do nothing but put football on the TV when I got nothing. I'm scrolling through my phone 24/7, reading football. I don't know who these players are playing for, and I will not know at the end of next season. And I'm just thinking that is someone who lives and breathes football. Now, maybe a younger generation of 13, 14-year-old kids, maybe they will invest their time into it. But
yeah, but you're equally a white man called Tom Simpson. Like I'm not having a dig at you, but like I think for Europeans and particularly for people in the Middle East, maybe the appeal will be greater because the Middle East itself is also big, and let's not forget that Saudi, that whole Gulf area, they're all competing for the same pie. So they're all trying. They all realize like oil's not going to be around forever. We all need to increase our tourism. Saudi Arabia appear to be winning this battle in terms of the fights they're getting. WWE's there, the UFC.
Al brings it up here in regards they have took over PGA Golf. So look, it is what you can tell what they're doing, and football's no different to what they're doing with the other sports. But I think the other sports aren't. It's not to be elitist as football fans, but in terms of looking, you don't have the crowds at golf in terms of the product of what an English Premier League match is. Football, it's entrenched. It's different. Now that might be a little bit big-headed. I'm sure golf fans say, no, golf is more special than football. It's obviously not. But in regards to, I don't think you can. They are trying to take the soul out, not in a bad way, but it's almost in terms of the money spent trying to sort of drag it away from you. It's kind of taking the soul out of football. I don't think you really can. I think it's stuck there.
Yeah, I'm with you, and that's the thing. I'm sure they'll see a level of return. I don't think it'll be the kind of return that they're expecting. And when that happens, now look, if you're a player, I still think, and like we're seeing it with Mbappe now. All the reports coming out from Mbappe's camp now, he wants to stay in Europe, even for the 1 year, even for the ridiculous amounts of money that they're willing to throw at him. He wants to play his football in Europe because he knows he's a 24 now, 24-year-old player. 1 year in a lower league, it could actually it could ruin his own career. I mean, it could ruin his own momentum. I'm sure he'll find his level again. But why would you do that to yourself? Stay in a competitive league where you can play the top football.
What do you think happens? Because you're right, but they're going to pay $700 million a year. Like, I'm just thinking,
there's such thing as having enough money, and I have to.
Yeah, I know, but what do you think happens? Like, if that gets thrown on his table,
is a key example though. Like Ruben Neves is the only player who's in their prime who has gone. And I think that's a really key point. And he said, I can give my family I mean, look, if he was more sensible, I got to be honest. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to knock at him, but it's disappointing. Like, for him to say things like that, like, mate, you're getting paid handsomely at Wolves. I'm sure any top 6 club would have had him, and he would have had a massive pay increase anyway. I just find that mentality really poor. I think if you're talented enough, because this isn't just about money, if you're talented enough to play in the English Premier League, like, that's a true honor. People would die to play in the English Premier League. It's easier to make it in the Saudi league, right? So the fact that it's essentially mercenary behavior. Now, I'm not one to criticize. Look, do what you think's best. It's your life. But for him, like, again, he is the only one in his peak who has gone. And I think that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, no, look, I completely agree. And that's where you do. So wish them well. If any player wants to go pursue that, feel free. Like, if someone threw 20 million at me a year, I'll happily jump to go and play for Al Nassr sort of thing. But it is one of those things. But Al saying Saudi Arabia probably not in it for the money. They're after sports washing and prestige. I think that's in regards to state and that investment at the moment in regards to the sports washing argument in regards to, okay, it's not a return on the money, which is a huge concern of mine in regards to Qatar. Here we are. We'll throw a bit of an ownership discussion to start off with, to end up with. A huge question of mine in regards to Qatar buying Manchester United in regards to, this is not me favouring Sir Jim, but a question in and around Middle Eastern or state ownership, regardless of where it is from. If Qatar buy Manchester United, it is simply that is Manchester United. Manchester United will never have new owners. Like who's going to go to Qatar and say, "Hey, can we give you £10 billion for the football club?" How does that benefit Qatar? So once we are owned by Qatar, that is Manchester United now. There is no future owners of Manchester United. So if we're not happy with the owners, we get the Glazers out. We can stop going and we can get the Glazers out. We get Jim Ratcliffe out if he was an owner, which we didn't like. There are avenues to get these people out. If you're owned by government, that's it. They're not going to sell the club. What benefit is for them to sell the club? I'm just thinking Elon Musk isn't going to go to Qatar and say, do you need a bit of money for this football club? And I'm just thinking they're going to say no. So I'm just thinking if it goes wrong, fingers crossed it wasn't to go wrong, but if it goes wrong with state ownership, you're literally stuck. If it goes wrong under the Glazers, there is a potential avenue where they want to cash in and get some money. Qatar won't need the money. And I'm just thinking that is potentially a bit of a sticking point people haven't realised.
Yes and no. Like, it is... Look, I think people are mixing the message because sports washing, like, if I sit here and I say, oh, well, I think Saudi Arabia is a good country now because the WWE goes there. Like, no, that's actually not their end goal. The end goal is money, guys. Like, it really is. You're not attracting you're not spending heaps and heaps of money to not see a return here. This isn't purely a PR move. It is about money.
But it's a return in different fields. It's not so much through the football club. So if someone wants to buy Manchester United, the football club, what benefit is to them to sell it?
Oh, like Qatar? Yeah, of course. Like, if Qatar buy Manchester United, then Manchester United will forever be under Qatar. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I'm saying if they turn out to be bad owners, we're stuck.
Yeah, we are stuck. But the reality is that, but the motive for Qatar is they'll want Manchester United to be successful because part of that project to get Manchester United to do more tours in Qatar and to versus teams in Qatar. And in order for them to do that, that team has to be attractive. So I think I have no concerns that if Qatar buy Manchester United, they'll put every resource they have into ensuring that the football club is successful. The issue here, obviously, is the moral one.
Yeah, no doubt. And my God, hasn't the ownership discussion gone quiet? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a bad thing for me. Should be a good thing.
In this case, I'd say it's a bad thing. Yeah. I don't think anyone's at risk of pulling out, but I think it's clear that it's not moving. Nothing's imminent.
Depressing, but it is what it is. What can we do as fans?
Yeah.
I have no idea. It'll be the first Monday night match at Old Trafford, Man United Wolves. Big protest, do you think?
No, I don't think. I think everyone's going to be too pumped up for the football that they'll get over it.
I agree, but in regards to especially maybe how productive it is.
Good, I think that's different. But whilever there's hope, I think it'll be okay. If we see that Sheikh Jassim or Sir Jim Ratcliffe both withdraw, then I think it'll kick off. Someone's got to move. I think at the moment we're all in a bit of anything can happen. So something drastic has to happen either way. I think someone's got to pull out of the race.
Fingers crossed there's a resolution sometime soon. But good to get back on and chat. Want to be one or two different topics there, which is good. Do appreciate everyone in the live chat. See a little bit of discussion happening in there. Apologies if didn't get to all your comments, but do appreciate everyone's interaction. Please do leave a like on the video on your way out. That would be very much appreciated. Larry, any other plans? I'm off to watch Ireland are playing in the World Cup in about half an hour, 45 minutes. Off to watch the Irish girls. I actually played the Australian team last week, which I went to, which was quite good. But all in all is good in the world of Manchester United apart from the ownership.
All is good. You met some of the women? Some people from
yesterday a few of us from the Man United Supporters Club went and watched the England team train, and obviously the England team has a few Manchester United players, Ella Toone, Katie Zellum, Mary Earps, and sorry?
You met Katie Zellum as well?
Katie Zellum was there. She was actually, it was a funny one. We were sort of on the side. We had all our Man United flags on the side. They were doing a few signings, and Katie Zellum was well over the far side, so nowhere near us. And she was walking off. Thought, oh gosh, she won't come over. She's sort of nowhere near us. She sort of turned around as she's going past one of the security guards or one of the trainers or something. She saw the Man United flags just sort of rushing off down to the tunnel, but saw the Man United flags and ran straight over and said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. I should be inside now." But I had to say hi to the Man United fans. Ella Toon came straight over. Ella Toon had a chat and signed a lot of things. And our Man United Supporters Club presented them with all the players with a bit of a memento, a bit of a plaque saying, like, thank you for your contribution to Manchester United and women's football. Welcome to Australia, sort of thing. So that went to Mary Earps, Katie Zellum, Ella Toon. And we also actually met Alessia Russo as well, who is now unfortunately an Arsenal player. But we gave her the Manchester United Supporters Club scarf, and she took a photo with the scarf. And she also was our members player of the season last year for the women's team. So she was actually a little bit hesitant taking a photo with the scarf and said, "Don't worry, we won't post it anywhere or anything. It's just something for our supporters club." And no, it was good. And she obviously got the plaque for the members supporters club.
You know what's really disappointing though? So I'm not trying to be cynical, and I hate that I'm finding a negative and a positive, because I think it's great that they came over and gave you time. But do you see the difference between them and the senior team? And that's not exclusive to Manchester United. There was a video that went viral, Arsenal toward the end of the season, where there was a young fan with her father, and all the players no one spoke to her. Either signed the thing or kept walking.
Smaller scale, completely smaller scale. This was quite compared to a proper Manchester United.
I accept that. I accept that, Tom. But Bruno seems to be the only player who actively makes time for fans. He doesn't view anything as too hard. He doesn't view anything as too much time. He stays back. He signs. He takes photos. He's the only one. Remember in Melbourne, every single time, he was the first and last person. First person off the bus, last person to leave.
Yeah.
Now, part of that is being a leader, but honestly, these guys are in privileged positions. I don't care if there's a crowd of 5 or a crowd of 5,000. I think you have an obligation. You do not get to that position without the global fan base that gets behind you. So I think there is a bit of an obligation there. Anyway, good on the women. I think it's great that they did that, but I think the men in the first team could learn a thing or two.
Oh, no, definitely, yeah, and just little things like that. So you've experienced it in Melbourne as well. Takes a second out of their day, but a lifetime for us in regards to the memories. Box, in regards to this might be the Alessia Russo. If you message me on Twitter, I'll send you the photo on Twitter or Instagram, whatever. I'll let you know. And the women's players look tiny. Yeah, the photos, they are tiny. I actually am taller than them. I'm not taller than many, but I am actually quite taller than them. But they were sort of on the pitch. I was on not even a gutter, just sort of a bit of an incline inside the stadium. So I did look a bit of a giant compared to them. So I'll take advantage of that. But
right? I mean,
yeah. Alessia Russo is quite tall, but Katie Zellum and Ella Toon, quite petite girls.
Are you intentionally not posting the photo because you don't want an Arsenal player to be seen with a United scarf?
Well, she said it. She said, make sure you don't post this sort of thing. I said, okay, we won't post it sort of thing. But she was happy enough to, and she had a chat and she took a photo with 1 or 2 people and signed everything. And but in my estimation, I had respect for Ella Toon and Katie Zellum, but it definitely went up when they saw the flags and they sort of made a beeline straight towards us and stopped and had a chat and sort of thanked everyone. So, definitely keeping an eye out for them. They're playing Friday night in Sydney against Denmark. So definitely keeping an eye out for them. And without naming any names, have you had any bad interactions with players? Not that I would say in regards to, that one sticks out as a bad moment. Once or twice you think, the player was a little bit rushed or something. You think, hang on.
I had a bad interaction.
I would never sort of say, that was a bad interaction. I would understand a circumstance around maybe me selfishly wanting it to be a better interaction, but never a player's sort of a bad intent around him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I had a bad interaction with Roberto Firmino.
That's probably a good one if it's a bad one with a Liverpool player.
Yeah, I mean, I don't give a shit, to be honest. So, I mean, look, it was quite cheeky of me. I was in my Manchester United jumper. I think we were there to watch the Europa League final actually, and I saw him.
Yeah.
He was by himself, and I think it was just him, and he had the security guard with him. I was like, "Oh, hey, can you take a photo?" And he knows what I'm doing. I'm like, I got a Manchester United logo. I want to take a photo of him, and I'm going to put it all over Twitter and say this Liverpool fan doesn't give a shit. Anyway, he smelt it out, and I was like, "Come on, man!" I'm just asking for a photo. He's like, "No," he's like basically saying "piss off" in Brazilian. Portuguese, whatever, and then his security guard gets in there and he's like, "Oh, go away," whatever. I didn't care, but
Actually, one in Sydney, and again, this is someone I love, so it hasn't sort of burnt any bridges with me. But Patrice Evra, once he's walking past, and there was only 3 or 4 people here, so I was like, oh, he'll definitely sign something. And he put his sunglasses on and did a bit of a Conor McGregor strut past everyone, and sort of looked the other way. And it was just people sort of standing there, not shouting or anything, and a little bit confident, a little bit cocky walking past, and it's Patrice Evra. He was enjoying himself, so I hold no grudges against him. I still love him, but I thought, that time I thought, oh, he could have stopped, but he chose not to. But why should he stop? He's living. He was in his own time, so definitely don't hold anything against him
because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, but yeah, it was one of the. He might have had a bad mood. He might have been in a bad mood. I'm not sure. So it is what it is. But 10 times out of 10, it's a good interaction. If you treat the players with respect.
There's a great story of Sir Alex Ferguson. I think it was after a game at Old Trafford, and where the players get on the bus, and Fergie was out signing things, and Fergie gets back on the bus, and he says, "All of you get up, you go back out there, and you sign every single paper that anyone wants signed." A very famous story, but it's true. I think these players. Look, it's easy to see it from our perspective, their perspective, but honestly, see you later, Tom. Honestly, I think that it is a privileged position to be in. So regardless of if you're lucky enough to play for Manchester United or you play for your local NPL team here in Sydney, if people are willing to put in the time to wait in the cold, to stand, to get your autograph, then I think the least you can do is take a photo with them. It's not a big deal. It's not always possible to sign 500,000 people's autograph. Yep, I understand that. But I think you have an obligation, since you're in that privileged position, to make a difference in someone's life if you can. It's really not too much to ask.
You mentioned Sir Alex Ferguson and autographs, and I'll bring this up just to wrap up. Now, I'm not sure if this will fit on the camera because it's quite big, but hopefully I get it the right angle. But you talk about Sir Alex and autographs. I did pick up these yesterday. So it's a treble piece.
Oh, here we go.
And in the bottom corner there, the bottom corner near my elbow, best wishes by Sir Alex Ferguson. It's the treble piece from the parade.
Beautiful.
The more support this channel can get, I can buy a new house and I can get a proper man cave where I can hang it up somewhere. I have no more room to hang anything, so I do need to make room. If anyone has any suggestions.
I feel your pain, mate. I've got a signed Anthony Martial frame jersey over there.
I remember that, yeah.
It's just sitting behind a freezer.
So many shirts and frames. They're just sitting, waiting for my next house. That's what they're waiting for. So, until then.
Good night, everybody.
But it has been a pleasure chatting to everyone, especially those couple of chats towards the end. Hope everyone has a good one. And we'll be back tomorrow night. Obviously, Manchester United playing in a few hours, playing against Real Madrid. So we'll definitely review that match for you and bring you the latest on all the transfer news. But until then, hopefully everyone has a good one. And we'll chat to you soon. Cheers.
Cheers.